what you're facing. Oh no, you hear them voices coming round, and your heart starts racing so loud. When the cold wind blows, when they see your eyes, think they got our number, but we ain't gonna nothing else more to say. Everything that I have, I'll give. First, you gotta pick a side. Now you got a team and you're rolling with the pride. Wanna play the game, make it to the end. I wanna bring it back again. I feel it inside. I'm reaching my stride. I'm standing my ground. Now I won't give in. I'm moving ahead. I'm back from the dead. I'm ready to fight again. Raising the roof, raising the roof, raising the roof. I'm raising the roof. All the mistakes I made, now I can change my fate. No one can take this heart away. First, you gotta pick a side. Now you got a team and you're rolling with the pride. Wanna play the game and make it to the end. I'm gonna bring it back again. I feel it inside. I'm reaching my stride. I'm standing my ground. I won't give in. I'm moving ahead. I'm back from the dead. I'm ready to fight again. Raising the roof, raising the roof, raising the roof. I'm raising the roof, raising the roof, raising the roof, raising the roof. I'm raising the roof. Find another way to fight another day. Find another way. Find another way to fight another day. Find another way to fight another day. Find another way. Find another way to fight another day. I feel it inside. I'm reaching my stride. I'm standing my ground. I won't give in. I'm moving ahead. I'm back from the dead. I'm ready to fight again. Raising the roof, raising the roof, raising the roof. I'm raising the roof, raising the roof, raising the roof, raising the roof. I'm raising the roof. I can't be controlled. I can't be I can't be controlled. There's no stopping us now. I can't be controlled. 'Cause we're not in the crowd. I can't be controlled. You can't stop us right now. I can't be controlled. No, no, no. No, 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 you can't control me. Strong arm, everyone, y'all are so weak. Say they won't fight, well that's cool, we gon' see. Their shoes look fire, but they're getting cold feet. Man, I'm all in when it comes to those drinks. 'Cause I ain't worried about what somebody gon' think. And I ain't worried about what somebody gon' see. Nothing y'all can do, y'all cannot control me. Brainstorm, y'all minds got a slow leak. Brainwaves crash, this is getting so deep. Everybody, every time I go speak, don't believe the hype, then it's what you gon' see. I can't be controlled. I can't be controlled. I can't be controlled. There's no stopping us now. I can't be controlled. 'Cause we're not in the crowd. I can't be controlled. You can't stop us right now. I can't be controlled. No, no, no. No, no, I can't be controlled. If I don't wanna be there, then it's time for me to go. Money is the motive, so if y'all don't even know there's nothing you can do to buy me, y'all are finally exposed. Hold up, man, you know that I'm honestly the GOAT. And I'm all good like I'm trying to be the Pope. If you talking money, then it's gotta be a joke. But if the money talks, I estimate it's gotta be a quote. Oh my God, man, you can't lie to me, I'll know. So really, if you
you try it, then you gotta be exposed. Headstrong, even when my mind is getting old. But even so, you need to know that no, I can't be controlled.
Yeah. I'm ready to play now. Put me in the game now. I came here to prove it. I'm ready to do it. I can't be afraid now. Put me on the stage now. I'm ready to rage now. I feel like an animal stuck in a cage and I'm ready to break out. My time, my time. None of you people can tell me to stop. This time, like the last time, you better get ready to race to the top. I'm ready to do this. Show you what the truth is. I step on the field. It's time to get real. I'm feeling so ruthless. My time, my time. None of you people can tell me to stop. Lower the lights down. Hand over my crown. Hand over my heart. I do this for my town. I do this for my crowd. So turn me up real loud. My time, my time. None of you people can tell me to stop. Yeah. So what are you afraid of? Those feelings are made of. Get in the game, your moment of fame. Show them what you made of. It's time that we stand up. It's time that we man up. For anyone asking who is the best, we putting our hands up. My time, my time. Nothing can keep me from reaching the top. This time, like the last time, I'm moving so fast, I'm ready to ride. I'm ready to throw down. It's time for the showdown. I'm ready to rise. Don't be surprised, I'll take on the world now. My time, my time. None of you people can tell me to stop. Lower the lights down. Hand over my crown. Hand over my heart. I do this for my town. I do this for my crowd. So turn me up real loud. My time, my time. None of you people can tell me to stop. My time, my time. None of you people can tell me to stop. My town, my crown. We know what it takes to be reaching the top. We're reaching the top. We're reaching the top. We know what it takes to be reaching the top. My time, my time. None of you people can tell me to stop. My town, my crown. We know what it takes to be reaching the top. We're reaching the top. We're reaching the top. We know what it takes to be reaching the top. Lower the lights down. Hand over my crown. Hand over my heart. I do this for my town. I do this for my crowd. So turn me up real loud. My time, my time. None of you people can tell me to stop. Turning the track up. I'm never going back down. Hand over my heart. I do this for my town. I do this for my crowd. So turn me up real loud. My time, my time. None of you people can tell me to stop.
Look at my shine with the glow. This is my time with it though. This is my time to be way at the top. Me and my guys gon' pay out the block. I don't look like wall. Time's right, and I know the sea is walking in the limelight. Promise you gon' wanna watch like a sci-fi. My guys are high risers, high tide. My crown if you come to my side. I pledge allegiance for lifetime. My squad connected like Wi-Fi. We grind and you see the highlights. This my life. It ain't a game now. Me and you, we ain't the same now. Lions coming out to play now. Opposition out the way now. Out of the way. You wasn't invited. Say you come to play. I dare you to try it. You don't wanna try me. Then step up to my team. Yeah, out of the way. Yeah, yeah. Out of the way. Yeah, yeah. Out of the way. Game now, me and you, we ain't the same now. Lions coming out to play now. Opposition out the way now. Out of the way, you wasn't invited. Say you come to play. I dare you to try it. You don't wanna try me. Then step up to my team. Yeah, out of the way. Yeah, yeah. Out of the way. Yeah, yeah. Out of the way.
The road to $300,000 heads to the Sunflower State for Week 18, where tonight for the virtual Kansas Speedway, we say good evening, sim racing fans, and welcome to Race 2 of Round 1 for the 2020 eNASCAR Coca-Cola iRacing Series playoffs. Well, as always, we're happy that you're spending your Tuesday evening with us here on the iRacing Esports Network and streaming live at eNASCAR.com. As always, myself, Evan Pasoko, alongside Steve Letarte and Parker Kligerman on the call once more, guys. Happy to have you with us, as always. And Steve, we'll go back to you first. We're coming off of a playoff opener last week at the Charlotte Motor Speedway Roval, in which we saw Bobby Zalenski get his 6th straight road course win and his 3rd of 2020 to be the first driver locked into that championship 4.
Yeah, Bobby Zalenski at the Roval, perhaps the biggest sure bet of the year, once again proved that he's the king of the road courses for good reason. He shows up, he dominates, he sat on the pole, dominated the race. I think the big storyline out of there, though, when I look at the points, is really Michael Conti is really the only one that was hurt with that blown engine. Everyone else is still right in it. And now we head to Kansas. I was just there this weekend for the Cup Series race. It was a riveting race. This is going to be on a mile and a half that races a little bit like a super speedway. A lot of drafting, and then you kind of got to find that high line, get in line, and not make any mistakes.
And that's the key, Steve. So I ran in the truck race at Kansas this past weekend, and one thing I really liked running was the high line. Well, you're going to see a lot of that here tonight. That becomes the dominant lane, and with that, it means to make passes, you've got to take huge risks. You've got to go and do possibly the thing that we like to call out, and especially Dale Jr., and that is slide job. You've got to try and shove a ton of speed down the bottom and slide up in front of those guys on the outside. So as a playoff driver, that means managing risks. How risky do you want to get and trying to make those passes and being able to judge that and assess that every time you go for a pass? It's going to be great to watch.
It's going to be a tricky race for drivers to try to make up big pieces of track position as well as this one works on. Let's take a look, though, at what that playoff grid is coming into this evening. So as we mentioned, there was no win in your regular season. There is in the postseason. So Bobby Zalenski wins. He's in. The big notable drivers, though, Ray Alfalla, minus 21. Michael Conti with that blown engine, minus 37. Steve, did they already have to start thinking about must win?
I think Conti needs to race tonight like he needs a win. I think Alfalla needs to race tonight like he needs 15 or 20 points. If other playoff drivers don't have trouble, then perhaps it's a win, but don't put yourself in a corner quite yet.
Well, one of the drivers that's needing to get a little bit of work in tonight is Garrett Lowe. He enters tonight 6th in the championship standings, only 6 points below the cut line. Let's hand things over to the driver of the number 21 Ford as he takes us for a lap around the virtual Kansas Speedway with this week's iRacing Lap Guide.
Hi, I'm Garrett Lowe, driver of the number 21 Ridespin Ford Mustang for Wood Brothers Racing, taking you for a lap around Kansas Speedway. So past the start finish line, we're going to get the car set up for turn 1 right up against the outside wall, dive to the bottom, keep the car pinned on that white line as close as you can, set up for a good turn 2 exit, wash out to the wall, keep it straight all the way down the back straightaway, pretty long straightaway at this racetrack, and then dive it straight back to the bottom in turn 3 again, right on the white line. Want to keep the car nice and tight on the bottom early in the run, and we'll see the progressive banking allow for some lanes to open up throughout the race. And that's a lap around Kansas Speedway.
Well, he's going to get set to do battle, Parker, for 134 laps, and you're now standing by with the driver of the 21.
Right, that was an awesome lap. But Garrett, I think the big question here is you're 6 points below the cut line. So how do you balance racing for points, but also possibly going for victory and getting locked into the championship 4?
It'll just kind of depend on how the race plays out tonight. I think we're going to see some wild restarts. This track lends itself to some pretty, spread out racing in terms of 3 and 4 wide on restarts. So it'll be interesting to see. We might just have to throw the strategy out the window and go for the win, or we might just have to play a strategy game all night. We'll see.
Sounds a little risky. If you can rotate your camera a little bit to the right, that might help us out a little bit. But my next question then is about the racing that we're going to see. So we keep hearing that the top line is going to be dominant, that it's going to be hard to pass. How do you make those passes and take that risk as a playoff driver?
You just have to have enough confidence in your car to be able to make those moves. You can't really have a failed attempt. Failed attempts end up with cars in defense, and when you're in the playoffs, you can't have that. So it'll be exciting for sure. You'll see a lot of slide jobs at some point throughout the race. Hopefully, I'm not the one who winds up with the right side caved in on the fence.
And what can we expect pit strategy wise tonight? I know you guys are always talking about that's a big part of this. What do you expect to see?
I have no clue. We'll figure it out as we go. I'll let the crew chief handle that. I'll stick to the driving. I'll pit when he tells me to pit.
Love it. Well, curious if that's a little bit of gamesmanship or if he is really going to play this one by the seat of his pants. By the way, Garrett Lowe's getting ready to strap into the car and go racing, and so is everybody else, because practice, qualifying, already done. All that's left is for us to go down trackside, turn up the music, and take a look at tonight's Coca-Cola starting grid. It is a 14th career pole position for Nick Ottinger. That's third most in series history, and he'll bring us to the green flag alongside Keegan Leahy. But some spoilers in the top six. Bryant, Boland, Davius Gorlinski, your top six.
Chris Shearburn there in row 5 next to Michael Conti. We mentioned Michael Conti, a little bit of a hole from last week. At Alfala, row 6. Not too bad. We'll see if he can build on that.
Malik Ray there in row 7. Colin Keister, who won earlier this year. Corey Vincent. Jimmy Mullis is there in the playoff fight. Garrett Lowe way down, position number 24. That's going to put him second lowest amongst the playoff drivers. A race winner here in Zach Novak just ahead of him. And then Ryan Luzi inside of row 14, the lowest of those playoff 8.
Yeah, and you just have to be concerned for Luzi starting that far back as we see the rest of the starting grid. It's just... You got to work your way up there, but you got to be careful. We just heard about the risk these guys are going to be taking to get passes completed. And then Jarl T and Brian Schoenberg on the last row with this one. Well, Parker was talking with Garrett there a little bit about the strategy, Steve, so that's your department. Walk us through this one with tonight's ASUS race analysis. Well, it's 134 laps, just over 200 miles. We feel the fuel window is just under 60 laps, 4 sets of tires, pit road speed 45 miles per hour. So if you do the math, I think all of these guys will require 2 pit stops. We'll have to see how important they feel tires are, though. If we get some yellows, they might actually pit a third time.
That's going to be the strategy here, and maybe that goes to what Garrett Lowe was talking about, is it's going to be dictated by how it goes. Also, you can see weather conditions a little bit different, of course. Track temp at 81 degrees Fahrenheit than what we saw over the weekend, where the kind of story with the Cup race was cool conditions, but still expect all these cars to be kind of on top of each other, especially early in the race. And you get about 10 laps in, I think that's when we're going to see drivers go up to the outside. Here's a driver wall, so we're going to be looking in with all these drivers as the race goes on to give you this perspective from their sim rigs at home. We'll be checking in with these guys, including your playoff 8, as this race plays out. But the pace car going to dive down and in, and another opportunity to punch your ticket to the Homestead finale right here, right now, for the second race of the round of 8. The pace cars down and in, the field in the hands of 2013 Kansas winner Nick Ottinger, as we say, let's go playoff racing at Kansas. Strong opening lap for Nick Ottinger, but he's not safe. Here comes Leahy to the very outside, challenging for the race lead, as Bob Bryant thought about 3 wide. Now we're 2 sets of 3 wide. The battle is for second on back. This looks so similar to what we saw on Sunday, Steve, between the real Cup drivers in terms of being able to have crazy restarts, 3 wide, 3 abreast, almost like a Daytona Talladega early on with that lead car just throwing blocks as Nick is doing on those 3.
Yeah, I think this is going to be the key to the race. Be aggressive on restarts when the tires are good. You see a big block by Ottinger to the apron. It seems like it works as we're on board with Al Fowler right here. Get the positions while you can, because as the tires wear and the grip goes away, it will be more difficult to run 2 and 3 wide.
A little bit of loose that time off for 2 is Bob Bryant, so he'll be slowed down the back straightaway. And John Gorlinski in the 97 now, punching 3 wide. He wants to take over the number 2 spot. You can see up the road from Alfala, that bright green number 18 of Bolin. He got on the door of the 97 to Gorlinski. Bit of a touch that time at 180 miles an hour. And Gorlinski thankful for that extra couple of hundredths of a second that gave him pole, because so far he stays in front of the chaos. It's Gorlinski, Bryant, the battle for P2.
And Evan, you're not the key here is you're not only, you're not even looking, there's a little bit of contact there. I think Bolin and Leahy got together a little bit. I think Bolin got into the wall. As he starts to fall back, is that you're not even looking for clean space. You're looking for the car that you believe is going to accelerate you forward the best. It's not just finding that clean air. It's pushing the guy you think is going to allow you to make moves and pass some of these cars as you're, bottled up in such a big pack.
No surprise, Ottinger's out front. He's been such a hot streak. I mean, 6th or better in the last 6 races. So consistent. But right here, 3 wide. He's going to be stuck in the middle getting into turn 3.
Wasn't able to keep the bottom protected. Leahy has the nose in front, but the run's going to go to Ottinger now. And at turn number 4, and the 25 Logitech Chevy stays in front for just a moment. Zelensky 3 wide behind. All of this going on inside of the top 10, Parker. And, we've talked about what these cars were like this week at Kansas. I think you're standing by with somebody who has a bit of experience with that as well, the team owner for the car up front. You're talking with William Byron.
What's up, buddy? Glad to have you with us.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm pretty nervous watching this with Nick.
I know you're Nick Ottinger's up there leading. Man,
yeah, it's crazy.
I just want to, basically we all. Oh, sorry. We all know the story about you starting on iRacing, right? But now you're watching this as not only a real World Cup driver who came from iRacing, but as a team owner, watching one of your drivers fight in the playoffs and try to lead this race. How did that come about?
Yeah, it's wild, honestly. I mean, I got to know Nick probably about a year ago. I think around probably when I started the team in November. Really, he was super hands-on and just super involved in trying to make our team go around and do a good job for us. So, and then on top of that, when we had the pandemic start, Nick was my #1 helper for getting me up to speed. Obviously, I grew up iRacing, but the level that these guys do it at is so much higher than even what I raced growing up. So it's pretty cool to learn some things from him and watch him in the playoffs right now and see how he's doing, and hopefully he can advance tonight with the win. That would be awesome to see.
And he is doing a great job there in an awesome battle for the lead right now against Keegan Leahy. It's very cool to watch. But hey, with no practice, as we've been talking about all year in NASCAR, no qualifying, how often do you find yourself using iRacing? And is it more often than maybe in a regular year to try and prepare for the upcoming races?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, honestly, for us, we especially use it for new tracks like the Daytona Road Course. We did an hour happy hour session there to learn the track and kind of understand what was going on. So I think honestly for places that we've never been to, it's huge. For places we're going back to, even just getting Nick to run our setups on there and see some trends and some similarities that we can gather and kind of try to learn from.
Well, man, you mentioned your friendship with Nick. We're watching him here. He's fallen a little bit from the lead. What kind of advice have you been giving him as he goes to this playoff run? Any sort of tips or tricks you've been trying to lend his way?
Honestly, I don't know. He's got it all figured out, honestly. He's way faster than me most of the time. So, honestly, I try to give him some feedback on what we experienced through the weekend and how the track changed and things of that nature. Obviously, the track's a little bit different scan at Kansas. It's maybe a couple years difference, but it still applies, and the same things. Kansas exit of turn 4 is really kind of critical for keeping your momentum. So, yeah, I try to help him with stuff like that, but I mean, he's got it pretty well figured out being on the pole tonight, and I know it's early, so I think he's running 3rd right now, so hopefully he can get back to the lead, but they do a great job. Him and his crew chief, Matt Holden, do a good job with strategy and kind of keeping the track position up front.
I hear you. Well, man, we want to get back to the racing action. It's starting to move up to the top. It's getting awesome. Hopefully Nick can get back to lead, but first of all, thanks for joining us, and we hope you enjoy the show. Yeah,
man, absolutely. You guys do a great job, so I'm gonna be watching intently. Hopefully we can get in, and hopefully John can have a good night too. I think he qualified 6th, so hopefully he can have a good one too.
Appreciate it, bud. Thank you.
I'll tell you what, both those cars running top 10 right now. I know it's no longer the race lead, but Ottinger fell to 3rd, and he gave a call to John Gorlinski as well, started 6th in the number 8 spot. And, we're starting to see those drivers now that we're working lap number 14 to move up to the outside. There's less cars on the bottom, but, while we were talking with him there was a bit of a moment with Nick Ottinger, a little bit of contact. I think it might have been with Chris Shearburn, guys, and it loosened the 25 up. He did a good job of saving it, but that's why at the front of the field, things are strung out a little bit more than what you're looking at now. A battle between the 27 and the 14. That's Brandon Cattell, your winner from a couple of weeks ago at Talladega. Really the only car in this group on the bottom trying to make that work.
Well, this is a struggle for the bottom of the racetrack. The preferred line obviously moved up right against the wall, and these guys do such a nice job of filling the hole. You see a little bit of gap between the 9 and the 16. Now the 14 is going to be looking at getting in line right here. We'll see if he's able to do it. But, when they move up to the top like this, it's just the preferred lane. You have to find a way in it. The 14 does get in line. That should help him not lose as many spots.
And on board there with Graham Boland, one of the drivers who we were checking in with a little bit earlier in this race, has fallen from 4th to 13th as we welcome in the 4th member of today's broadcast team down on pit road with Tim.
Hey, gentlemen, good to be a part of this show. Graham Boland in the number 18, a product of this racing. Everybody's on top of each other. Had a little bit of a stack up in the opening laps of the race. Has a little bit of damage to the front end of this race car. His team is telling him to make sure they watch the temperatures and make sure the thing doesn't blow up, because the temperature started to climb as soon as he got that damage to the front end of the car. So keep an eye on the 18 car. They're fighting that race car a little bit. You mentioned Evan. He dropped from the top 5 all the way back to where he's running now.
And I think that's always one of the major concerns when you get damage in the sim is front-end damage that can affect the temperature. You could basically see through the front of the race car, through those hood flaps, showing you how the front end was damaged. This battle, though, just a step behind Boland. It was led by Malik Ray, but Michael Guest, Kane Cook, both getting around the number 51 Toyota that last time. And you can see behind them Eric J. Smith in the 9 trying to dive to the bottom. It's basically, you got to make a slide job or it's not going to pay out. And now it looks like the 9 car stuck on the bottom looks like the 33 of Guest trying to get a little bit of space on this group.
And what you're seeing is why people are so aggressive, right, at the beginning on the start and eventually when we have some restarts, because as it gets single file like this, the passes become harder. You've got to take huge risks to make those passes happen. And Bob Bryant up here running right next to the wall. So see, like, if you're running next to the wall and that's predominant lane, then for Brad Davies behind him, how do you pass him? The only way to get by him is to go to the bottom. But to do that, you've got to carry a ton more speed and try to clear Bob to get up front as we go on board. And that's just really, really hard to do. And to add to that, it's not easy to run right next to this wall. As you see, we're on board Bob. He's working the wheel there. You've got to be pinpoint perfect to run right next to the wall. There is no room for error. So all those things combined make this an incredibly treacherous race.
Well, and I think we talk a lot about the top 8 and their quest to make the championship 4 at Miami, but I know your favorite part, Evan, is the relegation. And I think that's the conversation when we talk about Shearburn up there in 2nd, Bob Bryant, we've talked about Kane Cook, Casey Kerwin, all the different drivers, Michael Guest. Shearburn right here doing a great job in 2nd. And while he is not playoff bound, what he needs to do is have these solid runs. Currently 16th in the points, only 42 points above that relegation line. He wants to come here and have a nice, solid run. Take the pressure off the rest of the season. Try to guarantee him spot into top 20 and an invitation back to next season.
And that's why, we always talk about that dynamic between playoff drivers, non-playoff drivers. Will those guys not fighting for the championship give a little bit to the playoff guys? They have no incentive to, because obviously they're fighting just to stay in this series, to be top 28 points, to be here in 2021. Reminder, all the non-playoff cars will have those white contingency accents. So the splitter, the windshield banner, roof number, those roof rails, and the spoiler all in white. For the 8 playoff drivers, it'll be the same parts on the car, but they are flipped to Coca-Cola red. So that's how those 8 playoff drivers will look right there. And you can also see on the vertical ticker left-hand side of your screen, they are also highlighted in red on all our graphics on screen. So of those top 11 cars on track right now, 6 of them playoff drivers. You'll also notice that red tinting when we ride on board with these drivers as the race goes on. But what you're looking at right now is a very intense battle, which also includes the most relaxed driver in the field, because Ray Alfala, see out his windshield? Well, there's your Roval winner. That is the 83 of Bobby Zelensky, the only driver locked in. He rides P8, and there's a whole string of cars stacked up behind him looking to make some headway.
The one thing here as we go on board with Alfala that you're noticing as he runs this bottom lane, another part of running the bottom that really just doesn't help you is that you start to hurt that right front. So as Ray Alfala runs down there, trying to slot himself into that top lane, he's going to continually heat up and hurt that right front, and that makes it worse later on in the run. So when you do that, that's just, you're compounding the issue. So you've got to find a way in that top lane, but it's hard to do. And you look back here from Bobby Zelensky and you see that train of cars all the way through 3 and 4. It's so hard to slot up.
Well, and I think the stressful situation for Alfala is not having a bad run in the 13th position on the left side of your screen, but on the right side of your screen, you'll see that only puts him in the 7th position, still 28 points below. So, you know, with his a little bit less than perfect performance at the Roval, he's trying to dig out of that playoff deficit. And as you can see, a 13th just isn't going to do it. Not when you have 5 other playoff guys in front of you in the running order.
Man, that's hard.
And you can see the right-hand side of your screen, guys. Of course, Zelensky locked in with the win. Keegan Leahy showing up as actually the points leader live, because if he were to get a win as well, both he and Bobby would be locked in. They would be seeded by points. As they run, Leahy has more points than the 83. Not that the win for the 32 in that current position changes a whole lot, because Keegan Leahy came in tonight second in the points. We would have a big swing, though, guys, if any of those drivers in those bottom 4 get a win tonight, because that would take somebody like the number 46, Jimmy Molles, who looks pretty good right now, plus 18, 10th on track. If somebody behind him goes for the win, all of a sudden you go from being safe to possibly having to deal with chasing Nick Ottinger down. And that's why we keep saying, even though it may not be necessary at this stage, treat it like a must win. Because what if we go to Texas next week and you're good by 30 points? But then the guy behind you wins, you're out. So that's why you don't want to leave anything up to chance.
And it's so hard. You know, that's why it's difficult to be in the position Ray is in, as he continues to fight on the bottom, trying to slot in there in front of Malik Ray. I don't know if he's going to be able to slot in right here, so he's going to continually fall back. And every car he sees there, he's going, okay, that's a point. That's a point, and that's in our position. He's starting to see that tick back, and that's such a hard place to be, because, yes, we're only 28 laps to a 134-lap race, but you have to know you're adding up the points in your head. Even if you're not looking at an actual point counter, you're sort of, you're doing a ballpark to say, I'm not advancing, I'm not gaining points here, I'm losing them, and that's not a good position to be in. And that can add to a frustration level that eventually you end up making mistakes. This is such a tough place to be for Ray Alfala to be falling back.
Well, let's ride on board with the number 9 machine. That's Eric J. Smith on the outside of the racetrack. He's been in a handful of these battles tonight. Started 20th. He's in 17th. And, well, there he is in the green room talking on the radio with his team as he's hoping to keep Ray Alfala from sliding up in line in front of him.
Yeah, I love the green room for Smith. He drives for Jim Deaver Esport. Guys, we talked so much about the points and the winning you're in. I love the mix as we see a big move by the 9 to the bottom of the race.
That allowed Ray to slot in.
Yeah, the 2 car just came right up, and I think that's what the 9 was trying to do, was go to the bottom to not really let Ray get that spot, but he does. Alfala actually loses out, because remember, he was trying to get in front of Malik Ray for position. He'll drop a spot, so Alfala now falling to 16th position on the racetrack right now, and it's basically a high-speed game of chess with these drivers trying to make those strategic moves. Do I go to the inside and maybe pick up a spot at the risk of, if it not working out, maybe losing 2 or 3? A little bit more separation in front of the field. Here is Chris Shearburn. So for all of us talking about how difficult it is going to be to make moves once these cars settled into line, the number 36 car is +7. He's the biggest mover in the top 20 cars. He's made his way all the way up to P2 and is trying to reel in Keegan Leahy, who's been on cruise control since getting to the front of the field.
Hey, does Steve know that car? You recognize that car, Steve?
He's speechless. He's enjoying it up front for the 36 of Chris Shearburn. And the challenge for him,
it's the Tart Esports right there.
I'm chewing my fingernails. I'm chewing my fingernails as a team owner because, listen, Shearburn's did a nice job this year, but he wants to stay in the top 20. We'd love to have Shearburn back next year. We have mane and tail on board. We've built a relationship with the sponsor, and we'd like to continue it. We'll see if Shearburn can hold off this move, though.
That was the 25 machine to the bottom. Nick Ottinger doing that move, not in the corner, but on the front straightaway. Now he slides up, center of 1 and 2, takes the top lane away, and Nick Ottinger now back into the number 2 position. Shearburn opting not to go for the crossover yet. He'll fall back into 3rd, and that move comes just as I was about to say, Parker. The challenge for him is it's going to be a lot more difficult to reel in that half a second advantage that Leahy has than it would be for a car behind him to put a move on him. And surprise playoff driver Nick Ottinger made that move. He's kind of in a playoff sandwich right now. 2 playoff cars in front of him and a playoff driver in Michael Conti down behind him, also trying to do the same thing. A little bit further back, you see Ryan Luza. We talked about all those playoff cars up front. It is not going great for the driver of the 53 machine. One of those drivers who just wanted to get through that race at the Roval said that was probably the happiest finish that he's ever gotten in a race like that, in which he only finished just outside of the top 10 or whatever it was at the Roval. Normally that would be a poor result for him, but at the Roval he'll take it. But kind of like Alfala, kind of like Conti, if you're going to accept an okay result at this level, to get to the top 4, you have to be great. Right now, not. He started in 27th. He's up a handful of spots, but only running in P22 right now, has him second to last of those 8 playoff hopefuls on track right now. So he needs to continue to move forward.
And this is not a championship performance. It's not a performance we expect to see out of Luza. I've seen him start the back and drive through the field, but it happens a little quicker than it's happened here. It'll only be up a couple spots, up to 22nd. So I know he is fast over the long run. I know he's a driver that we've seen, as I said, pass a lot of cars over a whole race, but this is just not the kind of performance, the kind of speed you want to see a driver bringing into the playoffs and going to trying to be one of those championship 4, fighting for that championship. I think right now, if he doesn't start to make serious headway as we get late in this fuel run, then that to me tells me he doesn't have the speed. He's not saving tires. He just doesn't have it, and that's going to be a tough position to be in.
Well, I just don't think he has it just because the gap in front of him, Parker. We could talk all we want about how hard it is to pass, but you have to be in position to pass. And right now there's 5 or 6 car lengths in front of him to the 14 car. So until you can close that clean air gap and get up to that car's bumper, that tells me that your car just doesn't have the overall pace.
He was only 2 points out of a spot in the Homestead finale coming into this evening. He was chasing down Nick Ottinger, but Ottinger currently outrunning him on track by about 20 positions. You're on board with Keegan Leahy, a previous race winner here at Kansas from 2018. He no longer has that half a second advantage over the rest of the field. Chris Shearburn now back to 4th. Michael Conti made that pass for 3rd, and they've all stacked up with a back bumper of the 32 car. 1st, 2nd, 3rd, all playoff drivers fighting for a golden ticket to Homestead. And let's see what the 25 can do. Or does Leahy have to implement that Joey Logano strategy, block the racetrack, see if he can keep the number 25 behind him, guys? We're inside of 100 laps to go, but still very early on in this race, only working lap number 39 of 134.
So, Evan, Keegan Leahy is one of the best on the long run, but I was skeptical if Nick Ottinger was using everything he had in that 25 car early on when he was riding behind Chris Shearburn. It seemed to me like he was just taking care of a little bit, and sure enough, he then evaporated that, 6/10 gap to Leahy's right on his bumper. Just looks strong. Looks like he can put that car wherever he wants, whereas Leahy's having us maybe block, sort of try and take away that clean air. I think it's only a matter of time before Nick Ottinger can make this move to get the lead.
The question is, when do you pit? So if I'm calling the pit stops for Chris Shearburn, I would tell him to pit at lap 45. I would come 45, 90, 134. I would break this race up basically into thirds, keep the fresh tires on as long as I can. We'll see if the leaders, though, Leahy and Ottinger, decide to do the same. Zelensky, you mentioned him winning a week ago, so he can be aggressive. Pitting on the sooner side is only going to help these cars with their overall grip.
Well, you are a crew chief, so you would be thinking of strategy. I'm just trying to get the lead, man.
Yeah, see, well, you just be patient. 4 more laps. I'll get you the lead the easy way.
There you go.
of
Pit
pitting.
stops. Yeah, Logan Clampett, he's down pit road. He's not the only driver in. I think there was Christian Challoner down there with him as well. So just shy of 1/3 distance. Cars coming to pit road. More cars on the radio now saying they're going to be going in. So we knew we were short for making this a one-stop race by about 10 laps or so. Nobody really going to try to stretch that. No yellows to shake things up yet early in this one. So pretty much locked in to go for a two-stop strategy. These cars are almost 2 seconds slower now than they were at the early part of the race on fresh tires. So that's something to keep an eye on. Garrett Lowe and Santiago Tires also down pit road. Let's watch for these top cars. Bobby Zelensky just said over the radio that he is going to pit from P7. But if I'm Michael Conti, guys, I'm in a very different position than Leahy and Ottinger. You know, the 32 and the 25 have a good look at getting into this thing on points as we see Zelensky hit pit road. We talked about Conti, though, who blew the engine last week. He basically needs a win. Why not go for the undercut? Try to get ahead of these guys.
Absolutely. I would have already pitted if I was Conti. As soon as we saw the wave start, I would have been one of the first guys on pit road. I like what Santi did in the 4-car for Letard Esports. Conti's running the ball.
I wonder if he's going now.
Tells me he's looking for pit road entry. And here
There he goes.
See if he gets to speed. Man, these guys are so good at getting pit road underneath.
It's slow here, too, guys. Just 45 miles an hour on pit road. So all week, we've seen guys locking it up in official racing here, trying to get it down to that slow speed.
It's a hard place to get on pit road because you are going so fast. In real life, it's very tough. Just did it in the Truck Series this past weekend. It's a very enticing pit road to try and get on, and you can carry a ton of speed. But at the same time, when it's like that, it can trick you into carrying too much speed. As we see Nick Ottinger peel it off.
Yeah, I really think this extra lap delay is going to cost him the lead. I believe either Conti or Ottinger are going to leapfrog him with these short pits. We see the 36 come, look like the 77, the 51 as well.
There's a lot of smoke. I wonder if that was one of them or all of them smoking the tires on the pit road as Malik Ray follows Gorlinski down. And now we see if the cars up front respond. There's Keegan Leahy. Look at the gap. I mean, all the cars near him have already come down pit road. His advantage is now 4.5 seconds to the next closest driver, but the 32 not coming down pit road yet. He continues to stay out.
And, you know, Evan, I have to say, I think this is an experience type mistake out of the 32 team. They have a great car. They have control of the race. I just don't think there's a risk to pitting right now. Enough guys have come to pit road. We see the new tires have already cycled back inside the top 15. I think there's more of a risk for staying on the racetrack, but we'll see this time. The 32, he enters the top of the racetrack. It tells me he's running another lap.
So, Steve, this is an interesting one because when you're in this position, you've got the fastest car because you got the lead, right? You've got you have everything going your way. Why even take the risk of putting yourself this far out of everyone else's strategy?
I think the mistake that most make is they think there's this big risk of getting caught by a yellow and being a lap down, ending your day. But in today's racing, there's so many opportunities to kind of get back on the lead lap. Even in this short of a race, 134 laps, the risk doesn't outweigh what you're going to give up. Risk versus reward. And I think you can get kind of pulled into running too long. And I think Leahy right here is going to see this. When it cycles back around, he's going to lose a lot of track position.
Just listening in, guys, to what that 32 machine was doing there. That are pretending Bolton down pit road, so that's another spot. But look at your battle for 15th on the scoring screen. Left-hand side, we talked about the difference with a one-lap undercut. Michael Conti did eclipse Nick Ottinger. Made that pass right now for 15th and 16th position. You can even see Justin Bolton in the 10, the lap number of pit stops, so that's when they were down pit road. And here comes the 32 of Leahy, finally in at lap number 48, but I have to imagine both the 8, the 25, and maybe even more cars will cycle past him as it's a big lap for Ray Alfala. I know it may not be the optimal strategy, but that is a lap led and a bonus point as the 2 cycles to the race lead. We are waiting on these top 11 or so positions to still come down pit road.
Now, I'm fine with the strategy for Alfala because the point has value. You see what he did. He stayed out. He got the point. Now he'll come to pit road as we see Conti go past. He'll assume the race lead. I believe he should pass Leahy with his late pit stop.
Corey Vincent, Alfala there got so close to each other coming on pit road. Ray got very lucky. Corey was able to not get in the back of him. Hey, Tim, you have more?
Yeah, looking at some of these strategies here, Parker, the 32 of Keegan Leahy, they were talking about staying out a little bit longer to be a little safer on the fuel and the tire strategy if this thing stays green. But when you look down the road, the 46 of Jimmy Mullis, his crew wanted him to stay out a little bit longer, but he wanted to come down pit road to try to leapfrog some of those drivers ahead of him and try to get ahead of the game. So some differing strategies down here on pit road, but a lot of these drivers expecting to be in it here for the long haul under green.
Well, tell you what, guys, we have a driver and we got a crew chief in the booth. So I'll ask you guys, when the driver disagrees with the team on the strategy call, who wins out in that argument?
Ooh. The crew chief better.
Yeah.
No,
he's got more info.
I joke about that, but the crew chiefs have more information, and the drivers are busy. They are trying to drive the race car. They can't see the entire layout of the screen. I think you have to have a relationship with your crew chief where you have to trust in him. And you see right here, Conti's up to 7th. You see how far the 32 has fallen, right? Nowhere near the top 15. So the running extra, while it seems like a smoother and more conservative approach, it's going to cost him just a ton of time.
And Steve, that's
he's in more traffic as well, Parker. Just want to mention as we watch this battle, Leahy's in a lot of traffic too, so that's going to hurt him more.
It is, and that's part of the problem with doing this strategy is you end up so far behind. He has those new tires, so he's going to just fly by a lot of these drivers, but still, it's the traffic that's going to hold you up and put you at risk. But that's the thing about strategy between a crew chief and a driver. You've got to have that trust. Four wide, 5 wide for a second. That was wild.
That was the flying V into turn number 1, but the 32 wins out on the very inside. Leahy slides up. He's going to do his best to get through the field here on the fresh tires. For the moment, through pit stops, it is Michael Guerrilla in front. We're expecting Nick Ottinger to go back to the lead as we close in on halfway from Kansas. You're watching the eNASCAR Coca-Cola iRacing Series on the iRacing Esports Network.
For those living together and those living apart. For classmates, graduates, and teachers making the best of it. For the restaurants delivering to our doorsteps. For the frontline workers putting it on the line every single day. For this great nation determined to be stronger on the other side. Thanks to all of you, we'll be together again.
This is iRacing, the world's premier online racing game. iRacing puts you in the driver's seat to experience today's newest form of competitive motorsport, virtual racing, all from your home PC. Race virtually in endorsed series from NASCAR, IndyCar, IMSA, the World of Outlaws, Aussie Supercars and more. Take on legendary circuits like Daytona, Silverstone and the Nürburgring. Join iRacing's global online racing community and get on track today at iRacing.com.
And back live from the virtual Kansas Speedway. Coverage of tonight's race is brought to you by Coca-Cola, the official fan refreshment of eNASCAR. And by Asus, the official gaming hardware partner of the eNASCAR Coca-Cola iRacing Series. I want to remind you, as always, to enter tonight's Asus giveaway, and you can walk away with the ultimate gaming bundle. It includes a 1-year iRacing membership, an ROG Strix GT15, a Delta headset, and an XG32 VQ monitor. So that's everything you need to get going. If you want to enter, just go to the Asus Twitter account at ASUS_ROGNA. Look for the tweet talking about today's giveaway and click the link to enter. And guys, I'll just hand things off to you for a few moments while I go and enter that so I can upgrade the office setup at home, and we'll be good to go. What we've been watching well on side by side is the battle right now for 5th position. However, Dylan Duval, Phil Diaz, Jarl T, and all just came down pit road. So in a moment, this will be the battle for the race lead. And guys, initially, Michael Conti did execute the undercut by pitting a lap before Nick Ottinger, but the 25 has since passed him back. They will cycle back to the race lead as soon as Michael Guerrilla pits. He's down in his fistful of bourbon, Jim Beaverly Sports Ford. So this race now back to Nick Ottinger as here comes Keegan Leahy, guys. We questioned the old tires. Let's take a second look, though, at an incident that happened with that number 37, a Challenger, as we were on the side-by-side under the commercial break. Check this out. Off it into turn 4. There's Graham Bolin on the inside. Oh, bit of a squeeze. Yeah, that's not going to work. There's into the fence, and 37 I'm sure didn't appreciate that. Yeah, moved him. And he is really hurting guys with the damage on the right side, Steve. That's not looking good.
No, that is a lot of damage on the right side of the 37. And really, I thought he gave the 18 enough room. The 18 just slid up. We talked about trying to fight for the top. That's an area where the 18 car probably just needed to give a little bit of space. I don't think he meant to hit him on purpose, Parker. But on purpose or not, the damage is the same.
No, it's just it gets very tight off 4. That's a normal thing at Kansas. The track kind of tightens up in the way that flows. But shout out to Christian Schauner, just won his second championship in the major series, which is another leagues you can do in iRacing, which makes it a lot of fun seeing these guys go and race these things. So good for him to go do that outside of eNASCAR as we see Keegan Leahy trying to make the pass on Ottinger.
We questioned the strategy. He obviously lost a ton of time, but the fresh tires in his favor now. Keegan Leahy going to go back to the race lead at lap number 62, Tim.
Yeah, just a footnote on the Christian Schauner incident there. He kind of feels that might not have been completely by accident, that contact with the 18 of Graham Bolin, and he told his crew this thing is destroyed, so he's just trying to hang on for dear life until they can get down to pit road to fix it.
It's a long way because, of course, we just got through a pit cycle, guys, so we're looking at probably towards lap number 90 before those drivers would come down and get their second and final bit of pit service at a race that has been caution-free to this point, which allows these drivers to implement the strategy they want, but is not ideal for a car that gets torn up right after they just got that service.
Yeah, so just keeping my crew chief hat on over here. The 32 ran long, but it took him 14 laps to get back to the lead of the race. So that would be successful if he can do the same thing again on this next wave of pit stops. But I just get concerned with the traffic he put himself in. Although it has worked, the 32 now has clean air, the lead, and the freshest tires.
That's quite an advantage to get when it worked out for you. The key is, as you put it, he was able to make it through traffic. Will you have that same ability later on the race when everyone's pushing harder to make it through traffic? Maybe there's a caution when you're shoved further back there. So I think all of those things make it a riskier proposition the second time around. The first time around, how many laps are left, it's not quite as risky, but that second time around when everyone's pushing a little harder, I think it can be very risky.
I suppose having the fastest car helps as well, especially kind of this mid or early portion of the run to pad that advantage. We're on board with Michael Conti. Again, he went for the undercut to try to go for the race lead, but turns out the sooner you pitted, the further back you are in this lead trio. He runs in third, +7 from where he started, and currently trying to keep touch with Nick Ottinger. The battle for P2 is about 0.8 of a second off of that lead car, and Leahy is actually stretching things out to the biggest advantage we've seen so far tonight.
I love the concentration. As you see him going a little lower than Nick Ottinger, and that's just to get some of that clean air, help the car turn a little bit. That does work in iRacing. You're also sort of de-wedging the car as you go below the different lanes because Kansas is that sort of variable banking, so you're helping it turn that way. And that's sort of what you'll do when you're running that closely to someone as as Mike Conti was. Here as we go on board with Ray Alfala now, a little different view, a lot cleaner track in front of him.
In 14th is still not bad. It does put him, granted, I think now 7th of the 8 playoff drivers. So I think that goes to show you how strong it is because, it's something that you guys talk about, Steve, with the Cup Series is, the level of performance you need to get out of the round of 16, not as hard as it is to get into the championship 4. So, well, yeah, this is round 1 for us. It's only a 2-round playoff. Normally, P13's a decent run in a series like this, but right now, not cutting it for Ray, especially, of course, because of that point to deficit that we talked about entering this evening.
No, regardless of the sport, what makes playoffs great is the pressure is on. And when you look at someone like Luza right here, currently 21st came in 2 points below the cut line, running in the 21st position. I have to assume he's still below the cut line. While he's got a pretty cool setup in the blue backlit room, what he's looking for is 20 more spots. You mentioned it, Parker, earlier. This is a car that we normally see running in the top 5 or 7. Just didn't have it in qualifying, as I think where it kind of went wrong for the 53 automobile. And with a complete green flag race, 69 laps in, he just hasn't had a chance, as you see on the left-hand side, 21 points below. While there's still points to be gained in the 21st position, this can't be a good place to ride at basically lap 70.
Right, before the pit cycle, he was 22nd, so he gained 1 spot through the pit cycle, and before that, the pit stops started happening. I wondered, does he have the speed? Is there long run pace in this 53 that we see Ryan Luza have all the time? But it just does not look like it's there. So he definitely lacks a little bit of pace right now. He's going to need some good fortune his way, or to find some strategic, ways to move forward, because it just doesn't look like he has the pace that he's going to drive to this field and find himself in the top 10 to close that point deficit.
The minus 20 right now, guys. And something else I find interesting is Michael Conti is running 3rd, but he hasn't gained a single point. He entered tonight 37 points out. He is still 37 points out while running 3rd on track, ahead of, half of the cars that are ahead of him in the point standings. And a lot of that because Keegan Leahy currently leading would rocket him to the top of the championship standings. There is no advantage, though, for race wins other than locking yourself in. For the case of Zelensky, there's no bonus points that get transferred to Homestead. That's a winner-take-all for those top 4. But I think that goes to show you that Conti, maybe, Steve, after he went for the undercut the first time, it worked out for 5 laps, but then flipped on him, maybe in a position where, listen, I don't think a P3 is going to get him anything tonight. I'd rather finish 30 if I'm going to finish 3rd if I'm not gaining any points. So maybe Conti goes even earlier, or implements that Keegan Leahy strategy by pitting later, because kind of staying with the status quo right now, not getting the job done.
Yeah, I don't think it's a bad idea to try something a little different, but at the same time, you don't want to panic. I know we have been 72 laps green, but let's remember what that initial start looked like. 2, 3 wide, 4 wide, a lot of craziness. One misstep, and you can have many cars collected in an accident. So, I think the most important thing is I'm okay with a different strategy, whether you want to shift to one or the other, but have a good plan. Just don't guess at it. If you think your car is really good in the long run, hit early. If you think you really need to have fresh tires towards the end, run a little bit longer and come with 32 of Leahy.
Well, let's go on board with the number 90 machine of Zach Novak, and I think tonight is kind of a good summary of his season, because last year, Zach Novak won here at Kansas Speedway. Tonight, he's down 5 from where he started and running in 27th position on track right now in a battle with the number 10 of Justin Bolton. Who would have thought that from the defending champ, obviously with the season finale this year, getting moved back to Homestead Miami Speedway like it was last year, that would have been a great opportunity for Novak to defend that championship. But instead, what he's fighting for is a ticket in this series in 2021. And I know we touched on this relegation right now in a dead tie, losing a tiebreaker to Colin Keister. 20 cars, again, the top 20 in points, stay in this series, 21st on back, get sent home. And Steve, you mentioned this with that number 36 machine trying to stay into the mix. It's a big night for Chris Shearburn to get himself within 20 of the cut line. But, look how tight it is with the 97 of Gorlinski, the 15 of Guerrilla, and even further up the road, the likes of Busa and Casey Kerwin, who at times has been brilliant this year, only hanging on in 19th placed in the points by 11 above the cut line. This is a battle that's going to go on tonight through Texas and through Homestead.
Yeah, I'm a little surprised to see him 36 below the cut line. He came in above the cut line, and, he's having a good run, so it must just be everybody else is having good runs as well. In the end, though, I've seen a lot of projected points turn sideways in the closing laps of this race, so we'll have to see how that all works out in the end.
Well, this shows me how competitive the eNASCAR Coca-Cola iRacing Series is. You have the champ from last year who was a top driver. He was so competitive last year. This year, it went a little bit wrong at the beginning of the year, and it's just snowballed in the position he is now, just trying to fight to stay a part of the series. And I think that's why by a lot of ways, I believe this is some of the most competitive form of motorsports in the world, right? Because there's the most people that can be a part of it, that can try to be a part of it, and therefore the talent pool is massive. And I think that's what you're going to continually see year in and year out in the eNASCAR series. It's going to become harder and harder to stay here. It's going to be harder and harder to stay at the top. And the simple reason is that there's more people than ever that are going to try to be a part of it, and that means more talent than ever. So for Zach Novak, it might mean that, you know, if he's able to make it through into the next season and not get relegated, he's going to have to find ways to up his game, find ways to up what he's done in the past, because obviously what worked last year isn't working this year.
Well, and I will say, I think the key to iRacing and esports in general, Evan, is the cost of entry. You know, when you talk about motorsports, really nationwide and worldwide, the cost of entry to go and get experience and make laps is so high. You know, it costs real money to come out and run laps, where on iRacing, it's so affordable. It gives all these young men and women across the world the opportunity to come in here and kind of measure up against the best of the best.
100%. That's why I love it, man. I think this is it's breaking that barrier of entry, and it's, you know, we're seeing it here with Zach Novak, who's a very, very talented sim racer. Did a great job when he got to drive that real car, courtesy of winning the championship. But, you know, you've got to continually up your game in any sport at the top level, and this is no different.
But Steve, you were just talking, with a couple of weeks ago too. I wanted to mention you were talking with Steve Myers of iRacing, executive producer, and I think, what was the number? About 170,000 people, active subscriptions on the iRacing service. Every single one of them, myself included, not that it would happen, have just as fair of an opportunity to get into this series as the person down the street, as a person across the globe. You know, when we talk about the international reach of this series, as we see an early pit stop for Santiago Gutierrez. So it's not just taking from a pool of eligible drivers from a series down who have funding. It's everybody, equal opportunity to do this. And, you know, a lot of these drivers have been staples in this series for years. Who knows in 5 years how many of them will be left, knowing how many people are signing up now for sim racing with this as an objective. A lot of these guys, when they got into it, it was just a hobby, and for many it still is. But now you have tons of people getting into esports and sim racing as an objective to get to this level.
Yeah, and you know, the beauty is, you mentioned how many people are active users. Well, anytime I log on, I see 5, 6, 7, 8, 10,000 people currently in the database racing, in, you know, online racing. And I can always find a race, not normally in a cup car, but I'm a big street stock fan. I like to run the legend cars. I like to run late models, a bunch of different cars. So there's just so many different options: dirt, road course, oval, so many different options. And Parker, you're not surprised that Letard Esport car was the first one of the.
I was waiting for it. You took the words right out of my mouth. That looks like a Steve Letard strategy if I've ever seen it. First car on pit road to start the second round of pit stops. Santiago Gutierrez for Letard Esports. I feel like you had something to do with that.
Well, so the idea is that you pit very early. You hope that it runs through the entire pit cycle, probably another 15 or 20 laps. You should leapfrog a bunch on those new tires, and in perfect world, Evan, you get a caution, maybe 10 or 15 laps after the last guy comes to pit road. That'll probably generate interest for everybody to pit again, and then those 5, 6, 7, 8 positions you gained by coming early, you get to keep. We'll see if that all works out. At some point, you have to roll the dice.
Here's my question, though. All right, so we're looking at Nick Ottinger, we're looking at Mike Conti. What's their move here? Because they already seen Leahy. He went longer before, was able to drive back by them 14 laps later. So how early do you head down pit road to try and just to way short pit, as we see Jorlinski getting down here and Casey Kerwin getting on pit road? How early do you short pit Leahy if you're Ottinger or Mike Conti?
Well, I think at some point, if you're Ottinger, you have to understand that you're here, you're having a good points day. Points will do it for Ottinger. I think you can't gamble away a good run. Now, Conti, on the other hand, I would come to pit road almost immediately. Try it. Come either right away or the opposite. I wouldn't come at all, and I would let everybody pit. We saw Griglia run, 59 laps, Evan, so you assume Conti can run about the same. I would argue that if Conti doesn't come right away, run all the way out and just hope yellow, as you see both of the Klingerman entries come to pit road.
Yeah, Burton Klingerman Esports here, not using the Letard strategy. We're going to pit together all at the same time here. Bob Bryan, Logan Clampitt, those Valvoline Xerox cars. I like that, those two getting in sync, getting on pit road. But I agree with you. I think Mike Conti, this was his chance to take that risk. Leahy was still within, 1.9 seconds ahead of him. Why not just pit and get away with it? You got more on that, Tim?
Yeah, Michael Conti's team was talking about 90 to 92-ish, Parker, when it came to everything going on. But Keegan Leahy out in front. Looks like he's on a Sunday drive, but not all is quiet on the radio. Let's hear from him.
So can you tell me when all the playoff drivers pit last time?
Yes, I can.
Because I want to react to them this time. I'd like to pit a lap after the guys behind me, assuming nobody's doing their long strat.
Sure, yeah.
So there's a little bit of strategy coming out from the Keegan Leahy team. Some of these teams were trying to extend it a little bit. 90, 92, 95 is what I heard. But Parker, you saw Bob Bryant come down onto pit road, as well as Logan Clampett. Bob Bryant's team was talking about short pitting a little bit, having that extra set of tires if we do go green, and maybe an extra stop at the end. But they talked about potentially being 25, 30 laps down if they went a little earlier than they did. So there's been all kinds of strategies been thrown at this.
Well, Jimmy Muller is going to come down to the pit lane, so he will give up a top 15 running position. Still waiting on about the top 25, though, to come in. And as we see these two guys, remember, they're in two very different situations. Because if Keegan Leahy goes on to win this race, and say another playoff driver wins next week at Texas, we know that there's going to be at least one spot in on points. Nick Ottinger has been out running that 46 Machida Mullis all night. So as long as Ottinger's the top car on points, as we see Shearburn in, then he doesn't need to throw the kitchen sink at it to win it, because he knows if I stay up in points, there's at least one spot left for me. And that's why I think there's a difference between Ottinger and Conti, who maybe needed to get a little bit more creative instead of staying with the status quo, because now at lap number 90, we are basically 2/3 of the way through this race. So expect a big exodus of cars off of the racetrack to come down to pit road shortly, but still all those cars up front not yet deciding to come in. And based on that radio transmission from the 32, sounding like Leahy's only going to come in once those cars behind him do.
Yeah, my concern for Ottinger is Mullis has made the move. You know, what makes playoff racing so difficult is it's no longer go out, run as fast as you can, and win the race. You have to be very clear on what your goal and opportunity is for this race. The goal should always be to win. But as the race goes on, I think you have to accept when you can't win the race and when you have to try to gamble for points. Now we see Leahy pitting before Ottinger, a very interesting move here. I'm not sure what Ottinger's going to do here. We see the 8 of Conti follow him down pit road. Ottinger has a serious decision to make. He's been beat to pit road by a lap. Does he pit with them, just accept that he's going to give up a second, or does he run long and hope for a yellow?
Right after he said he was going to wait to see if other cars were pitting, he goes for the undercut, Conti in as well. And Nick Ottinger going to maintain the race lead at lap number 92 as we're in the middle of our final cycle of pit stops. We'll go side by side so you don't miss a moment. It's Ottinger in front, but it's Leahy's race to lose from Kansas. You're watching the eNASCAR Coca-Cola iRacing series on eNASCAR.com.
For those living together and those living apart. For classmates, graduates, and teachers making the best of it. For the restaurants delivering to our doorsteps. For the frontline workers putting it on the line every single day. For this great nation determined to be stronger on the other side. Thanks to all of you, we'll be together again.
This is iRacing, the world's premier online racing game. iRacing puts you in the driver's seat to experience today's newest form of competitive motorsport, virtual racing, all from your home PC. Race virtually in endorsed series from NASCAR, IndyCar, IMSA, the World of Outlaws, Aussie Supercars and more. Take on legendary circuits like Daytona, Silverstone and the Nürburgring. Join iRacing's global online racing community and get on track today at iRacing.com.
brought to you by Coca-Cola, the official fan refreshment of eNASCAR. And by Asus, the official gaming hardware partner of the 2020 eNASCAR Coca-Cola iRacing Series. I want to remind you one more time to enter tonight's Asus Ultimate Giveaway Bundle by going to the Asus Twitter account. That's at ASUS_ROGNA. You can enter to win an iRacing membership as well as a GT15, a Delta headset, and an XG32 VQ gaming monitor. Everything you need to get your sim racing career started. Again, that is the Asus giveaway tonight. Go find the entrance on their Twitter page. But I want to welcome you back into the broadcast booth. Evan Pasoko, Steve Letarte, and Parker Clearwood upstairs with Tim Terry on pit road. Once again, in the middle of a pit cycle, second time in a row that Michael Guerrilla has stayed out through the pit cycle to get some TV time for his Jim Beaver Esports Ford with a new partner on board this week. You can see the number 2 of Alfala going to the inside. That's what new tires versus old tires look like. And guys, to tie in our conversation that we had just before we stepped aside about how easy it is to get into sim racing, well, every day is race day with iRacing, and you can start your iRacing career by logging on to iRacing.com today for more information. It is always 50% off new memberships, so why not give it a go?
It's the best money you'll spend in motorsports if you're looking to be a part of it, to understand what racers go through, any sort of, or just to have fun. iRacing is the place to go, iRacing.com. Get a membership, try it out. I guarantee you'll enjoy it if you're into motorsports, because it's just that much fun.
All these guys on track started with their, their basic 3-month starter subscription, and now they're racing at the very top level. Let's take a second look at a dicey pit road entrance while we were away with the number 14 machine of Brandon Hayes-Cattell. The number 14 pitted just a little bit ago, but check this out. You're on board with Brad Davies from behind, moving to the inside. Look out! And then not enough room, but they actually got together. And guys, it's got to be a bit of miscommunication, not letting the cars behind you know you're slowing down, especially Parker. We were talking about a difficult pit road entry here when you slow down like that on the racing surface above that white line.
Right, but he wasn't, it's not like, that's where you're supposed to be, right? So you're supposed to be in that bottom lane. That's just the other drivers not paying attention or realizing that he was pitting. It's when you pit from the middle lane or something like that that you get into trouble. It just looks like Brad Davies didn't realize he was pitting when he was down there in the bottom lane, but that's where you should be. That's where, as a car is pitting, you go to that bottom lane and you get off the racing surface just before you get to pit road. We actually saw in the Cup race on Sunday a little incident where I believe it was Ty Dillon was trying to get down the pit road from about the middle lane, and Kevin Harvick got very close to him at one point. So it happens even in real life, but there, I don't think Brandon did anything wrong. I think that was just some of the other drivers not realizing that he was pitting.
Yeah, you can't come to the apron first. You still have to slow down on the banking, but it definitely was a squeeze for sure. And we mentioned pit stops. Well, Keegan Leahy is leading the cars that have pitted in the 6th position, but still 5 cars on the racetrack that have yet to come to pit road. I think their strategy at this point is to try to catch a caution before they need gas. I think they can go, probably about another 15 laps if they ran earlier in the race.
Yeah, that would get them to about 15 to go. So that's that difference we talked about where it wasn't really an option tonight to try to stretch for the one stopper. Maybe if we had gotten an earlier race yellow, that could have been a factor. But basically everybody but those top 5, Guerrilla, Tien, Diaz, Duval, and Schoenberg, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, have been down pit road, and they've gotten 2 sets of 4 tires. So as always, 4 sets available on the race, 3 additional when you count, of course, the tires that you start the race with. So if we were to see a late yellow, there'd still be tires down on pit road for everybody. Waiting on these top cars to come down. 30 laps to go from Kansas. Lay out and enjoy the sights and sounds as we go iRacing full throttle.
Hey guys, Ryan Luza reporting a little bit of damage still on that race car. The right front's got about 10 to 12 seconds or so of damage. It is hindering him just a little bit, but he's still able to make some progress. And the leader, or the leader, the 15 of Michael Guerrilla, has been down on pit road to get service, guys. They are fairly confident in their strategy if they can get these tires on and make up some ground here in these late laps to get a really good finish out of this thing.
Going to try to do the Leahy on the first cycle where he waited long and then decided to get the fresh tires. He's only going to have this time by 22 laps left to do it. So now we wait on the top three. Leahy comfortably fourth. The guys, there's always a heightened concern when you get to a pit cycle that you're going to have an incident because you got fresh cars with fresh tires coming up on slower cars. I think we've gotten through the bulk of that. But this is a group of cars from the 17 to Colin Keister on back. It's a battle for 8th. That we checked in a lot with that full throttle that are on top of each other. So if something's going to happen, the drama is going to come from here. Let's take a look at our Coca-Cola onboard camera, the 33 of Michael Guest.
You know what's interesting, as Tim alluded to there, Luza is actually able to move up a bunch of positions on this pit cycle, unlike the first one. The first one he came in around 22nd, came out 21st. Now he's found himself, I believe, in almost the top 15 as we go through this pit cycle. So it's a big gain for him, and that's a lot of points. When we get the live points once again, I think we'll see a big difference in where he was running 21st as to where he's running now. It will be a big chunk, a big gain, obviously, of 5 or 6 points for him, but most of all, it should just mentally look a lot different to be in the teens as opposed to being out back by the 20s there. So as we look, actually only 10 out right now, so it's been a big gain through this pit cycle. 7 for Luza to be, before he was, I think, like 21 points out.
Well, 7 points out, and I see at least 4 or 5 spots that he can get on the racetrack. Faster than Mullis ahead of him because of the new tires for Luza, faster than Lowe. Plus, we have Diaz, Keegan, and Dylan Duval to pit. We have the 15 here on new tires, though, and this shows you just how much tires are worth, but he has a long ways to go to catch up.
He's 32nd right now on track, guys. And talking about a late yellow, Stuart Haas Esports reporting on Twitter that they see a big chunk of debris in turn 2, and Burton Kligerman Esports has confirmed that as well. So the teams are a part of the conversation. We want everybody else to be a part of the conversation as well. So make sure if you're tweeting or talking about the race that you use the hashtag eNASCAR and be a part of the discussion. But Guerrilla way down there, going to try to get up a bunch of points here. As he was before that pass on Sheehan, dead last on the lead lap. He's got about only 4 cars within 10 seconds of him. Then he'll get to the back of kind of that thick mid-pack portion of the field, and we'll see if he can get to that and try to scoop up some points. But you can see Leahy once again now scored as the race leader. He cycles back to the point of the field. It's Nick Ottinger in second. He's 1 second behind the leader at about 0.7 of a second ahead of Michael Conti. So once upon a time, these 3 cars were nose to tail, but as the strategy has played out, it's gone in favor of the 32 as you see that final trio that had stay out come down pit road after they were able to make it 58 laps.
But the key here is that we have Nick Ottinger on 4-lap newer tires, which on the first round, we did not have that situation. Leahy was on the newest tires, so let's see if it flips. With 17 to go, can he reel them in? Can he use those 4-lap newer tires to be quicker at the end of this run and make a move at Keegan Leahy?
Well, 1/10 of a second quicker the last lap, 0.8 of a second back. He definitely showing more pace than the 32. The 32's done a nice job of controlling the race. You just never know how hard he's pushing it right here. Is he managing that gap, or is he pushing it for all he's worth? Once again, Ottinger takes another 1/10 of a second off, down to basically 0.7 of a second from first to second.
And battles throughout the field. Keister, Busa, a good battle for 5th and 6th, but it's some 6 seconds off at the top. And there's your onboard looks. Your race leader, Keegan Leahy, top left of your screen. And the challenger, Nick Ottinger, who has the gap now down to 0.7, now down to 0.6 of a second, trying to close in from P2. And listen, these both guys are no strangers to high-pressure moments. But when you're running up against the fence like that, half a car length off of the wall, I think the chance of a mistake a little bit higher. Leahy, I think, just needs to trust the spotter, trust the team on the radio, and keep his eyes off of that rear view mirror. Focus on the track in front of him. Nick Ottinger doing everything he can this time by. Only 14 laps to go.
And this is where it gets really interesting because as Nick Ottinger gets closer, he's going to start to get some of that draft down the straightaway. And then he has to use that positive momentum. And what I mean by that is he can't get balked by the 32. You can't suddenly just slow up and then think you're going to make that pass. You've got to try and use that positive momentum when you get there. So as he gains a 10th each lap, it gets closer and closer and gets more of that draft. Once he has that positive momentum and he's within that 10th back or 10th and a half and has that, does he shoot to the bottom and try to clear Keegan Leahy and make that pass? I think that's one of the only ways he's going to get this done, because if you ride too long behind Keegan, you can hurt those tires too much and not get the pass done.
We have to remember this race has gone completely green, so neither of these drivers have had a break. That's a mental challenge. That's taxing for an hour, over an hour now, to run inches off the wall without an issue. 2 green flag pit cycles, no issues there. And the new tires for Ottinger are definitely showing up. He has the lead down to 0.4 of a second, Parker.
He's gaining, and he's running that little bit lower line, which isn't as risky. He's getting a little more clean air. He's allowing that car to turn. It just shows me that he's got that little bit of extra ability to turn in the center. So this is going to be interesting to watch Keegan as we look at him, as he starts, those eyes maybe peek up to the right or up to the top of his monitor. That means he's looking at that mirror. He's going to be watching that. His team's going to be telling him where Nick Ottinger is. Meanwhile, for Nick, it's way easier. That car in front of him, he just has to get ahead of him. That's his sole focus. Find a way by. Man, this reminds me a lot of what we saw on Sunday between two of the best in the world, and Joey Logano and Kevin Harvick. We're seeing come down to the last 12 laps here at Kansas once again.
We saw Ottinger was faster on the end of that very first run of this race when those top 3 all ended up bumper to bumper, like I had mentioned. And that's why Leahy obviously benefited from the late pit strategy call, because he was really fast early, built up an advantage. Here's another battle, 9th on back. You have 5 playoff cars all lined up in a row from Jimmy Mullis on through. Mullis a little bit ahead of this group of 4 that you're looking at, which is Garrett Lowe, Ryan Luza, Ray Alfala, and Bobby Zelensky running 10th through 13th on track. A couple of points here or there could swing things, but up front, lap traffic for Keegan Leahy. Of course, he'll stay on the outside. McCollum will hold low. The Nick Ottinger's disadvantage now down to only 4 car lengths, and there's a lot of traffic now mixing it up around your race leaders.
Oh, that slotted right in front of Nick. That is so tough to deal with. Thankfully, those cars are on newer tires, so they should get out of the way. They should get out of the way pretty soon, but Nick is right there on Keegan Leahy now. He has to find a way to just try and use some of that momentum. Maybe some of those lappers could slow up Keegan just a little bit as Nick goes all the way to the bottom this time, 1 and 2.
He's going to mix things up, and I think he's slow on the inside of the racetrack because Nick Ottinger just lost a ton of time to Keegan Leahy. They're spinning in turn 3. McCollum nearly wrecks in front of the race leader. He'll save it. There's no caution, Tim.
And the 25 team of Nick Ottinger, they are saying they did not pack that car full of fuel. They are thinking they are short on fuel.
As he only pitted 31 laps ago, so that is way short of a full fuel tank, but obviously they tried to save themselves a couple of gallons, and that may have been a miscalculation. He has dropped way off the pace, and now Michael Conti going to pass him for second.
Oh, that is so frustrating. Like you said, it was a calculated risk. You basically select how much fuel you want to put in your car on the pit stop, and the 25 team, just with a miscalculation,
caution
to go. Giving up time. Oh, the yellow may save Ottinger, though.
There is a spin for Brandon Cattell on the back straightaway. And just as it looked like all hope was lost for Nick Ottinger, a yellow has changed this race. And it was Ford on Ford contact that I believe will prove to be the cause of the incident. We'll have to get a second look, but 127 laps without a yellow, and I believe it was contact at a battle for 27th and 28th that will hold Keegan Leahy up, and man, oh man, what's going to happen now? I mentioned it, guys, because this was a possibility that I think everybody still has 4 tires left, so there shouldn't be any major swing strategy-wise, but let's see what happened with the incident first.
Looks like an attempt at almost a little bit of a slide job. Slides up. Oh, then it's to try to over-under. Was already a little bit loose. They get together.
The move that's probably happened maybe 100 times in this race when we talked about that's how the move has to get done. And listen, we talked about non-playoff guys. It doesn't matter if it's for 27th. Those are drivers fighting to stay in this championship next year. A little bit overzealous on that battle out of turn number 2. Keegan Leahy, I'm sure, is not smiling like he was when we checked in with the onboard about 10 laps ago, because here we go. 4 pit stops. I think your primary concern, guys, is the strategy is going to be equal. You want 4 tires. Maybe you modify what you do fuel-wise to get to some overtime if necessary, but whatever you do, do not enter the pit stall wrong and have to fix it.
This is about being pinpoint perfect on pit road. It's getting into the stall. It's using just enough speed. It's hoping that there's a quick stop and then obviously accelerating as quickly as you can back up the speed for all those drivers, because you don't want to give up an ounce of time there. Knowing that track position here this late in the race, and we saw how crazy the start of the race was. We haven't seen a restart since then. This could be really wild.
Yeah, I was actually wondering if everybody was going to pit. When I look at Garigula, Diaz, and Tien, that were the last guys to pit under green, I didn't know if they would stay out maybe and gamble for track position.
And 3 cars do stay out. Michael Garigula, Phil Diaz, and Jarl Tien decide to stay out as we talk with the driver of the number 10 machine on the radio right now, Justin Bolton, was involved in that incident. Justin, what happened from behind the wheel?
I don't know. The 14 just decided to throw a slider for 27th in a playoff race. So I don't know why we even risked wrecking for 28th spot, but whatever.
I know it wasn't a great run for you guys as is, but now with damage, obviously, you're trying to fight to avoid going down to the Pro Series in the offseason. So what can you salvage out of this, and what are the next 2 weeks going to be like for the 10 team?
Yeah, I mean, obviously, this week we just missed the setup again. You just kind of guess on stuff, hope you're fast and come to the track, and obviously we weren't fast. So I guess for next week, Texas is probably more like this track, so maybe off again, maybe not. We'll just try different stuff and see what happens, but not really worried about my race. My race is already done from the beginning, being that far off, but just sucks for everyone else having a caution for no reason.
We'll let you get back to it, Justin. Thanks for chatting.
10-4, thanks.
Talk with the second half of that one. Parker, I believe we're also on the radio with Brandon Cattell.
Right, Brandon, so we've heard Bolton's side. What's your side of what just went down there in turns 1 and 2?
Well, I was really tight at the end of that run, and we decided to free it up a lot, and I was struggling really bad there. Like I had fresh tires and couldn't even catch the end of the pack. I don't even know how many lap pressure tires. I was just so loose, and I didn't even know if I could really pass Bolton, but I threw it in there and it just didn't stick, and I feel terrible. That was all me, 100%. Just it was just dumb on my part. I was too loose to go down there in the first place. I was trying to keep it to the right and let him try to correct my car when he was hitting me, but it just turned it around just enough. I just feel terrible for the rest of the field. I know this is going to turn into a plate race finish, so I feel bad. I'm sorry to everyone.
The lights out on top of the pace car, so let's reset the picture for you. Your top 3 stayed out. It is Michael Garigula leading this race on 21 lap old tires. Phil Diaz and Jarl Tien second and third on 15 lap old tires. Everybody else, 4 freshies. That's including Keegan Leahy and Michael Conti. 4th and 5th, guys. It's going to be a 2 lap to go restart.
The big concern here is old tires on the front row is can Leahy, Conti, Shearburn, Ottinger, can they find clean air? They're going to have a huge grip advantage, even for just 2 laps. Those new tires should have a huge advantage over those 20-lap tires. But can they find a lane? Will it have enough room to use those new tires?
Well, Keegan Leahy's in the best spot there, being on the outside. He's going to do one of my favorite moves, which is just pop to the top side and roll around, hopefully, those leaders in front of him with those new tires. We'll see if that works for him here.
Pace car off and in. 2 laps to go at Kansas. We need to get to the white for this to be official. Green flag flies are back underway. They're door banging between Garigula and Diaz, side by side to 1. Watch Leahy is the outside of row 2. First car with fresh tires and a quick caution behind. Bob Bryant, I see one of the drivers involved, the 7 machine, is heavily torn up, and it looked like a bit of kind of faux 3 wide gone wrong, as all those drivers were digging back at about 20th where that incident happens, and Bob Bryant is not very happy on the radio right now.
He had a good run going, came into this race 13th in points, was 58 points out of relegation, so in a pretty good spot, but it seemed like the handle started to go away there. And then, you know, we expect to see craziness. We just expect it more at the front of this restart.
And I feel like it was coming, but we didn't get that far. And of course, something else important to note is that will not count as one of our attempts at overtime, because that 2-lap to go restart was still in our scheduled distance. Let's take a look at the replay. You see the number 77 bowling on the inside, and it looks like Corey Vincent maybe tried to fit a car where there was about half a car's width of space there. And, you know, you talk about guys just trying to get spots late. I mean, I think that we were expecting that to happen somewhere in the field.
Yeah, it's just a miscalculation there. It's not even close to clear. Just trying to go up into a spot that was already occupied by Bob. Speaking of Bob, I think we have him here. So, Bob, what did you see from your point of view there?
I saw a dude hanging right into my left rear.
That's what I thought. Yeah, no, I saw the same thing. So we're in agreement, man. We knew these restarts would be crazy. What can we expect in this next one we're going to have?
Well, you know, you'd hope that we could do a little bit better than we just did right there. I mean, I don't know, man. We get to the end of these races and people's heads come unglued, I guess. But it's going to be crazy. You got some guys on old tires. I don't think they got passed right there. I'm not really sure. Haven't really looked, but yeah, should be fun. Not for me.
I hear you, but thank you.
So that's one half of the contact. The other driver involved, as we mentioned, was Corey Vincent, trying to get a couple of spots on the restart, and Steve, you are talking with him.
So, Corey, take us through that accident from your point of view.
Yeah, I'm not too sure what happened there. We got going there, and it looked like the 18 would pull low, and I just kind of held my line and was going to go in the middle. Then it kind of looked like he moved back up, and then we made contact, and that shot me up into, I believe the 77. I'm not actually too sure if that was my fault or not, but yeah.
Yeah, take us through these restarts. They're so crazy back there, 2 and 3 wide. How much do you have to give versus take? You know there's only a couple laps to go. If you feel you have to lane, you just have to kind of take your position and go with it.
Yeah, it's definitely tough. Being mid-pack and with the way this package is, like you said, it's hard to give. You got to kind of take if you want to go forward with only a couple laps to go. And like I said, I don't know. I'm not too sure if that was my fault. If that was my fault, I apologize to everybody involved. But I was just trying to, go forward.
Nope, we understand, man. Well, you got another green-white check coming. Good luck.
Thank you.
Evan, all the drivers so much more polite in the eNASCAR series.
And it's funny how, depending on who you talk to, it's always a bit of a different opinion. Third driver involved in that was Graham Bolin. Graham, it was a P20 or so run for you, and all of a sudden the cars behind you start getting into it. What did you see on the restart from behind the wheel?
Although I saw Corey inch down to the apron, so I blocked it, and I came back up, and I think he went for a gap that wasn't really there, in my opinion, but I don't know.
It's a bit of an up and down night for you. You guys started P4, but what changed to get you guys stuck back in traffic?
Well, I got walled by Keegan early, and that really killed my car. And other than that, it's been a pretty crappy evening. The damage has been I'm a tenth and a half off because I had right front and left front damage, and I had to go down on tape because I'm overheating. But other than that, I guess it's been all right.
We got a lot to fight for to stay in these top 20, so we'll let you get back to it with the lights out. Good luck.
No, thank you.
That's Graham Bolin, guys, and you can tell when the drivers are upset. The sensors just get a lot less work on the esports broadcast normally than they do over the course of the weekend. And now we will try it for an attempt, number 1 of 3 at overtime. And the running order does not change. Your top 3 is still the cars who stayed out. Keegan Lathy, 4th on down. The drivers on fresh tires as we get set for green, white checkered attempt number 1. Do those top 3 guys have any hopes of holding off the guys with fresh tires?
Well, before the last restart, I would say, and absolutely not, but Parker surprised that the 32 just wasn't going as far forward as quick as I thought he would.
Yeah, so Grigley got a great restart there, really hooked it up and had a large enough lead that I was thinking, if that continued, he was going to be able to maybe potentially hold on to this thing. I think it's really him. It's the others, though, they're going to have a tougher time because Leahy's right on their bumper.
He's the control car. First one to put the right foot down. Green flag flies. 2 laps to go for Michael Guerrilla in front. The top 3 single file out.
They're straight to the bottom using the lowest lane that's trying to just make the track as short as possible. As you see, Keegan Leahy went to the outside trying to use those new tires to the most effect.
Oh, Keegan Leahy! The 32 is into the outside wall. It is a melee in turn number 3, and Keegan Leahy is destroyed.
Wow.
That quickly. Can tides turn? It was a lot of dicing high and low on the back straightaway. We'll need to see a second look before we could break this one all down, but 20 minutes ago, it was Keegan Leahy's race to lose. We were talking about if he was going to be in on points or in on a win, and the 32 is absolutely torn up in this incident, and with so many cars involved, they're not guaranteed. He's the only playoff car. Let's see what happened. I think we need to watch. Michael Conti goes to the inside 3 wide. That shuffles everybody a little bit. Tien moves up therefore to Lakai. And it looks like the 32, I don't know if he got hit by Shearbird or just turned down, but it was contact with Ottinger that sent the 32 up.
It looked like 3 cars going for the same amount of real estate there. And, I don't think any one driver made one particular mistake there. I think it's really the way these restarts are and you have the cars that are on the older tires that were trying to low line. They sort of backed up the speed there a little bit. As you saw, Tien was slower than Leahy as they went off into turn 3. And then you had Ottinger, who had a huge head of steam on the bottom. Leahy and him met there. And I think it's just, basically, as I said, a lot of cars going for the same amount of real estate. But unfortunate for Keegan. I mean, obviously he had this race controlled for a while and definitely, was in an awkward position there.
Keegan's on the radio with us now. Keegan, you were just running up front. The car is destroyed at this point. What happened?
I don't know what happened. I'll have to look at the replay. This sucks. I really don't know what happened, so I can't blame anyone. But just goes as bad as it possibly could those last 5 laps. So yeah, that's about it.
I know that yellow there late, the first one of the night, you didn't really want to see that. At that point, Nick Ottinger was kind of chasing you down, but this had been a race that you had controlled, it seemed like, up until that point.
I had 2 seconds on Ottinger. I was winning that race till the caution came out. So how it goes. Happened a few times last year, too. I'll just have to go to Texas and win it.
We'll let you get back to it, Keegan. Thanks for the moment. But that's the dejection in the voice of the driver of the number 32 machine. Another playoff driver that was involved in that was Nick Ottinger. He gets off a little bit cleaner, though, than Leahy does as he maintains P5. Parker, you're on the radio with Nick Ottinger.
Right, Nick. So we just heard Leahy say he wasn't sure exactly what happened there. But what did you see from your point of view going off to turn 3 as to why you guys got together there?
I mean, I know you're fighting for inches, but I mean, I'm still unsure myself. That's what I was just talking to my guys about, Matt Holden, Justin, my spotter, and I don't want to wreck a playoff driver, none less Keegan, because he's actually really clean. I mean, I just don't know what happened. I mean, I went in pretty straight, I think, held him a line, and I don't know, it's just us predicting a little bit harder than what it should have been, or I don't know. I have to go back and watch it after this.
Do you believe the 25 car is damaged?
I don't know. I don't see nothing on the right front. Even if I did, there's no mercy out here. Just keep it full throttle and just get by these guys in front.
10-4, buddy. We'll let you get back to it.
Appreciate it, brother.
Love the opportunity to kind of get the drivers' viewpoints immediately after these incidents, talk to them before we even reset. And now we'll go to attempt number 2 of 3. So we were kind of thinking, is Guerrilla and these other drivers up front going to be able to hold the cars off on a green to white checkered? Now the question is, are we going to get to a full 2-lap run. And speaking of the driver interview, Steve, you're now talking with the 8 of Michael Conti, who moves up to P4.
Well, Michael Conti, I know the Roval didn't go as you wanted, but here you are, fresher tires than the 2 in front of you. What are your thoughts on this green-white checkered?
Well, Steve, I got a lot on my plate right now. Made a big mistake last week and didn't put it in gear, so that set us back a lot and busted our butts this week in this WR1 Chevrolet, and it's a really fast car. Keegan being out now and these guys being on old tires gives us a really good opportunity to lock ourselves into Homestead. So I'm going to try to nail this restart here, pick the right line, and see what we can do.
All right, buddy. Well, you're coming to the green, so I'll let you go. Get focused. Good luck.
Thanks, man.
Well, he knows how to do it in big situations. Of course, a series champion for back in 2014 for Michael Conti. So once again, it is green-white checkered attempt number 2. The top 3 cars, still those drivers who stayed out on that late race yellow, spearheaded by Michael Guerrilla, who has the control car, restarts this race whenever he wants, between when the pace car clears the racing surface and when the cars exit the restart box. It's in his hands. Of course, Conti, the lead playoff driver, needing a win if he wants to look for a second championship in 2020. Pace car off and in, green flag flies. It's a great jump for the inside.
Conti has room to the bottom. He's going to choose the bottom lane. Ottinger, though, is going to be the first car on fresh tires into the second position on the inside.
That bottom lane is dominant again. I think with those fresher tires on the bottom lane, they're absolutely going to be the fastest cars, 2, 3, and 4. Can they find a way around Griglia?
Here comes Ottinger. He'll snake to the outside. What a move for the 25 Chevy. Conti wants to do the same. Contact with Jarl Tien. They're 4 wide behind. Conti gets moved up. 5 wide for third. It's Ottinger leading into 1. They're going to wreck behind.
Oh, and that was looked like Logan Clempett just got into them. We're still green. They're starting to wreck off 2 as well. This is definitely Ottinger's race as we go off to 3 and 4.
More cars pile in, but it's all behind the race leader of Nick Ottinger, who's going to take the win at Kansas and punch his ticket to the Homestead finale.
Wow. Gonna take a while to dissect that final lap. It was absolute mayhem. I think Conti obviously got involved there as cars came up the racetrack. He got moved out of the way. Some incredible saves by Jarl Tien. But what a move by Nick Ottinger to put himself in position, get the win.
They started wrecking him, Steve, in 4, but fortunately they made it to the white. So once they actually wrecked them all, this race ran itself out, and what a move by Ottinger to find barely a car's length of space to get out from behind the race leader, Michael Guerrilla, to get to the outside, make that pass. Conti tried that same gap. It was gone at that point, and then Ottinger was home free as basically everybody behind wrecked him.
Yeah, in the end, Ottinger just got the new tires out front first. He got to the inside of Conti, and then Conti followed him through. We see his competitors pushing the 25 all around. I hear he let his engine go after the start-finish line, little DW fashion there. But in the end, it was a great move for the 25, and then all of those wrecks. Big recovery by Luza, who ends up in the top 5, but a big win by Ottinger.
You think
no burnouts? Up? Well, there's no burnouts, guys, but parking it on the front straightaway counts. This winning moment is brought to you by Coca-Cola, the official fan refreshment of eNASCAR. And we mentioned when he was in that 3-way battle for the lead for much of this race that this was not a guy that needed a win with at least one position guaranteed on points. Nick Ottinger was looking pretty good as is, but he will join Bobby Zelensky now as the 2 drivers locked in to that championship finale in 2 weeks' time. Let's take a look at our Coca-Cola move of the race, and for much of it, I think Nick Ottinger was picture perfect all night, but it came here on the 2-lap to go green-white checkered.
Yeah, he got to the bottom of those brand new tires, and once he got to the bottom, this move right here to the outside of the leader is unbelievable, Parker.
It is, and I have to think with that engine blowing its slide, maybe put a little bit of tape on this thing, made it as fast as you could for those last couple of laps, but definitely went to the outside, had the speed, squeezed way low, and then used that momentum to get to the lead, and then behind him, all mayhem breaks loose with Conti getting moved almost 5 or 6 wide there, and then it got crazy into turn 1.
I think I saw 6 for at least one moment. And again,
6?
he was ahead of the chaos, so he was fine. Conti into the outside wall hurts him. He kind of remains in a must-win situation, but just tracking the rest of the playoff drivers, surprisingly, none of them affected that much by it. Conti falls to 12th, but everybody else, Bobby Zelensky, when did we talk about him tonight? He finishes 3rd. Ryan Luza is 4th. Jimmy Mull is 6th. Ray Alfala up to 7th. Garrett Lowe 8th. Then you've got Conti 12th, and a disastrous end to the race for Keegan Leahy, who comes home in 32nd position. That's where your 8 playoff drivers finished. Let's look at where they all finished as we take a look at our race results.
There's a bunch of names, benefited just from all the mayhem there. Logan Clampett getting a 2nd. He was, I think, a 10th on that restart. So he got a ton of positions through all of that. But you mentioned all the playoff drivers that moved up. Nathan Lyon getting the top 10. Malik Ray, I mean, we never saw him maybe in the top 15 for most of the night. Now finished 10th. So that was big.
Continuing on through, you see the likes of Santiago Tierres picking up late, Christian Challoner, Brian Schoenberg. Those were some of the drivers who were kind of staying way out on some of the pit strategies to maybe catch a yellow and gain some track position. Turns out the way to get it was to stay out of the chaos on the last lap of this race. That's how they picked up some more positions. All these drivers, the likes of Cattell, Bolton, those two were in an incident for 28th and 27th. They finish both inside the top 20 when it's all said and done.
Yeah, a lot of positions available on that last go when a lot of cars crashed. We see down here Bob Bryant. He had heavy damage in 26th. Matt Busa, 28th. Michael Guest back in 30th.
And these are the drivers at the back of the lead lap, as you mentioned, Diaz, Leahy, Novak. And then the cars out of the race. Earlier incidents, the likes of Kerwin, Keister, and McCollum. Going to round out the field here tonight from Kansas. Well, let's go trackside and talk with your race winner and the newest driver who will be fighting for the championship in 2020. Parker, you're talking with Nick Ottinger.
That I am, with that incredible restart. An amazing move. So, Nick, I got to ask you, how did you know, one, to stay behind him, and how did you know that was going to work going to the outside in 3 and 4, and that you were going to have the speed to clear Griglia there?
Just gripping the tires. I knew they were on old tires, and they were hot. I mean, once we got past 20 laps on tires, I knew they'd be difficult if they did anything remotely wanted to. I mean, that's a lot of hard work from our team. I mean, I'm so ecstatic to have a shot at this year with William Byron Esports. I mean, it's just, God, we're going to Homestead, man. That's just excited right there, man.
You're going to be racing for a $100,000 prize there to be the champion of the eNASCAR Coca-Cola iRacing Series. I know you've been a part of this for a long time. What's it mean for you to be a part of that championship for now and seeing the growth of this eNASCAR Series over the last couple of years?
I mean, the growth is extraordinary, man. I mean, we got so many partners, so many real-world drivers like yourself invested in this esport, and I mean, I think the sky's the limit. I mean, it can just keep growing and growing and growing, and I mean, God, I mean, to be able to be in Homestead, not for just myself, but to have and represent all our partners, Logitech G, Sim Seats, William Byron, who's been a tremendous help through pretty much every week. I mean, I sit there, debrief with him just every chance I get after each race he does in the real world. And I mean, it's such a intricate, like, partnership we have, man. I mean, it's just extraordinary. To be able to get to the Final Four, I think it's tough this year. I mean, it's the toughest it's been for me. And I think we've been rising to the occasion and bringing really good cars. So, I mean, it's just at the end of the day, I mean, the job's not finished. I mean, we got to go to Homestead, and that's where it's looking to.
And what do you expect quickly at Texas? You're now locked in. What do you focus on?
I kind of expect the same thing tonight. I mean, we're going to bring a good car, but I mean, I expect more chaos. I kind of expected more chaos in the mid portion of the race, but I mean, I didn't think we were going to go that long, and luckily we set up for a mid to long run car. And I mean, we had to battle a lot of short runs tonight, and I think Texas is going to be exactly the same thing. You got to be a little bit more off throttle on 1 and 2, but and you're going to have such a pull on 3 and 4, being able to just stay full throttle. So I mean, I expect the same thing. Going to go out there, do our best to win. I mean, we're not going to let our foot off the pedal. I mean, our Logitech G team deserves to keep putting some wins together, and we got 2 left to do it.
Show us that shirt real quick. What you got on there? Just pull it up a little bit.
Oh, good old William Byron Esports, man.
There you go, man.
Yeah, I got a rep.
Congratulations. I know William's been watching. He's got to be pumped right now. But In second place is a driver I know very well, none other than Logan Clampett, driver of the 99, Burton Kligerman Esports, Valvoline Toyota Camry. Yes, that's my very own car. Logan, you got the second. All right, so you I'm going to admit this. First of all, your hair's crazy, right? But second of all, you text me, you're in 10th place. How the heck did you get to second?
Oh my God, that was a wild last couple of starts there. That was crazy. I don't know how I ended up in second. I mean, I caused a wreck, which I really want to apologize for. That was not the smartest decision on my part to do that. I saw Gariglia go. He blocked me low, and then I saw a gap in the middle and tried to take it, and he kind of swerved up a little bit, and I overreacted and hit guests. So I just wanted to apologize to them for that. But that was, I mean, I started 26th. I hit the apron in qualifying. So throughout the race, we had such a fast car, thanks to Nick Ottinger and Michael Conti. They worked so hard on this car tonight. It really sucks for Conti. He's going to have to go into Texas winning. And just, I'm so thrilled for my good friend and teammate over on Team Conti, Nick Ottinger, on the win. That's so exciting. I can't wait to see him race for that $100,000. Wish we were in the playoffs. That was my fault, but it's this is wasn't expecting to get second this race starting 26th. And for the next question, it is my mom's birthday today. So very, very happy birthday to her. It's she was like, "Oh, mention me when you get a top 3." So it's hard. Being all the way across the country. My sister's birthday was 5 days ago, so happy birthday to her too. So it's hard being away from the family on their birthdays and stuff, and the holidays coming up. So this is very, very special to me to get this second place finish. I really, really want to get a win for you, Parker, but
I know, buddy. I know.
2 more chances. 2 more.
You're close. Just real quickly, we see that sim rig behind you. That's your teammate Conti. He was involved in all that wreck. Are you guys gonna be speaking to each other tonight?
Probably not too much. I feel really bad for him. So I'm going to give him a little bit of space there. He really deserves a shot at the Final Four for sure. I mean, all the top 8 do. They're all super fast drivers. But just since I've gotten to know Mike a little bit more on a personal level, he's just such an awesome, awesome guy and such an awesome teammate. It breaks my heart to see him after these last couple of races getting wrecked.
I hear you, bud. Well, enjoy the night. Congrats on the second place. Steve, I believe you've caught up with the third place finisher.
Yeah, the third place finisher tonight, Bobby Zielinski. Bobby, I talked to you a week ago, victorious at the Roval. You didn't even need a good run in this race. You know you were into the championship 4 at Miami, but here you are in the third place. It's got to feel good to come back and have another great, strong run.
Yeah, I got kind of lucky with all the madness at the end. I messed everything up kind of the first run. I hit the wall on the backstretch, like not off the corner. I just kind of bumped the wall, and it just really messed up the downforce of the car, and I was a bit off from there. So I was kind of stuck. I think I could have definitely contended up with the leaders like Keegan and Nick and stuff as the whole race went on, almost caution free. But I kind of screwed that up for myself. But we capitalized there at the end, got another good finish, got a good points day for the team standings for Virtual Racing School. But it was just really tough to see what happened to Keegan because I think he had that race and he worked really hard. And how she goes in this series, it can be crazy sometimes.
Well, it was without a doubt crazy, but congratulations. A win last week, another top 3 this week.
Yeah, it's good momentum to build toward Homestead for sure, especially since it's a mile and a half. Even though with the context of not having the best race, we picked the right lanes on the restarts, had the best restarts we could, did the right adjustments to make it a short run car. But yeah, thanks everyone at Virtual Racing School, and I think we're looking pretty good for the team's championship. And if you ever, anyone out there needs coaching or guidance or lap times or whatever, we have it to just help the average sim racer, any sim racer, the best sim racers. So just glad to be associated with them, and it's about to be playoff championship time. So try to go win that baby.
Well, congratulations. Momentum's real, Evan. Bobby Zielinski, your third place finisher.
Yeah, like you said, he didn't need it, but he'll take it as he continues that momentum as we head to Texas. And there is the newest name into Homestead. Nick Ottinger will join Bobby Zielinski on the championship 4 grid at Homestead. Guys, right now, Mullis and Luza are the other 2 drivers in based on points. Garrett Lowe, 8 points off as the first driver out. And I think Keegan Leahy, if my math is right, looking at the unofficial points, is 19 points out of a transfer spot in P6, which is kind of unfathomable given how good he has been all year and how good he was tonight. But as we get set to go on to Texas, guys, first I'll ask for your final thoughts on a wild end to what was, up until the last 5 laps of the schedule distance, a pretty calm and strategic race.
It's just a good reminder that points get paid on the final lap. I know that sounds silly and it doesn't need to be pointed out, but we saw tonight the dominance of Keegan Leahy. He put himself in position, but an untimely caution put him in a bad situation. A couple cars stayed out. It moves him back a couple rows. Anything can happen on the restarts. He gets caught up in a wreck. The same thing can happen next week. The same thing can happen in the championship race. Really, anything can happen.
Right, I have to agree. I think tonight we saw the craziness of restarts, right? And when you're put in a position where you have to be racing like that in a pack, that's where it comes down to an element of luck and also an element of putting yourself in the best position possible. And some were able to do that, some were not. But I think one thing for Jimmy Mullis and Luza is how fast Keegan Leahy was here tonight. And knowing that next week is also a mile and a half, knowing the setups can be somewhat similar, I think that gives Leahy a huge leg up on the others in terms of being able to go there and make up those 19 points or put it in Bridgeland in Texas.
Yeah, many of his career wins have come in intermediate tracks. His 3 this year, though, at kind of a different variety in Daytona, Indianapolis, and then Darlington. But there's the side of our next race as we go to Texas Motor Speedway next week, guys. And something that, Parker, I'll go to you first on this one as we look forward, that William Byron mentioned is, the scan of the track of Kansas. Well, this Texas scan is brand new. So this is that new repaved surface. So it's a totally different Texas than the one that these guys have been racing on for the sim for the longest amount of time. I mean, it's definitely a different track than what it used to be.
It is. It's what we race in the Pro Invitational, and I can tell you that from the middle of turns 1 and 2 all the way back to the middle again, you're basically flat out. So it is a wild place in the package that we race there. And so you're really only lifting for a short amount of time, which means it's an incredibly crucial place to lift, but you got to be able to make up that speed and be able to draft.
And Steve, of course, we didn't really have this dynamic coming into this. Obviously, the guys in the bottom 4 coming into tonight were still guys who I think go to Homestead have a real good look. But now with our championship favorite, Keegan Leahy, below the cut, you got the defending champ and Michael Conti, or a past series champion for 2014, all looking for a must win. We could see some crazy calls for those drivers who know that that's the only way they're going to get it done.
Well, crazy calls and crazy speed. You mentioned on those names when you look at Leahy. You look at Conti, they were in the picture to win again tonight. I don't know why Texas would be any different. They've had speed all year long. When I look at Texas, it is that balance. Parker talks about how you can run wide open through 3 and 4, but you do have to get out of the gas in turns 1 and 2. And that what team is going to have the balance set right? Will they have their car low on drag for the high speed areas, but have good grip in 1 and 2? And I still think track position and pit strategy is going to matter. I think you can pass, but in the end, it's easier to win if you get to restart in those final restarts in the front 2 rows.
100%. And you mentioned that you have to lift in 1 and 2. Well, you also have to do that even on restarts. So you will low line, you will draft all the way through 3 and 4, but then you'll get down the front stretch, and you saw it in the Pro Invitationals. Everyone will get to the bottom, they'll start blocking, and you've got to start lifting, and that's when guys get together. We saw it in the Pro Invitational races. So if you thought tonight was wild, I could think you'll see the same thing, if not more, down to turn 1 at Texas on those restarts.
I think we learned the same lesson tonight that Kevin Harvick learned over the weekend, is you can be great all night long, but it's those last couple of laps that matter the most, and they only pay out the points on the last lap of the race. Until next time, though, that's it for us here tonight for the virtual Kansas Speedway, as round number 18 of this 2020 championship has fallen into our rearview mirror. As always, I want to thank everybody behind the scenes for making these possible. So that includes everybody from Justin Prince, James Pike, Doug Hunt, Nicolette Gosson, You've also got Tim Burns, Alex Horn, Jay Kennedy, Sean Ambrose, Malik Strader, Michael Watson, Cisco Scarbuza, Drew Adamson. For Tim Terry, Steve Letarte, Parker Kligerman, and myself, Evan Pisoko, thanks for tuning in, and congratulations to the latest addition to the championship 4, Nick Ottinger. We're back for the round of 8 finale next Tuesday, October the 27th, for the virtual Texas Motor Speedway. That race and every race of the eNASCAR Coca-Cola iRacing Series playoffs can be found exclusively here on the iRacing Esports Network and streaming live at eNASCAR.com. Until then, good night from Kansas, where Nick Ottinger is in victory lane.